What's the difference in being saved with works and being saved without works? Well, that's what we're going to find out in this episode 28 of Salvation and Discipleship. So if you've got your study guide, which you can get at simplybelief.com/grow, you'll notice that under salvation it says saved without works, and under discipleship it says saved with works. So let's take a look at the first verse that we find there, which is Acts 16, verse 30 and 31. And he brought them out and said, Sirs, what must I do to be saved? So they said, Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and you will be saved, you and your household. So here there is no laundry list of things that are required in order to be saved. The apostles tell this jailer all he has to do is believe on the Lord Jesus Christ. And then they add, this is an offer for you and your household. I think the reason why they throw that in is to let him know this isn't some special deal because you know an apostle or because you helped out an apostle. Instead, this is the deal for everybody. For you, for your household, for anybody that wants it. Believe in Jesus and you will be saved. So, that's what it means to be saved without works. And in fact, everybody that finds themselves in heaven will be there apart from works. Nobody's going to be there because they worked hard enough for it. So everyone is saved in that sense without works. But what we find is certain places in the Bible talk about being saved by works. And there's a number of them, but I want to look at the book of Philippians, chapter 2, verse 12, to show you an example. Therefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Wow, so this verse gets quoted a lot, and it's hard to look at this verse and not think that it's saying that you will be saved because of certain works. What does he tell them to do there? He tells them to obey. He tells them to work out their salvation. He tells them to have fear and trembling. Hardly anybody would argue with the statement that those are actions, those are works. But the Bible clearly tells us that salvation from hell is not of works. That's what Paul said in another place. So how does this fit into a faith-alone understanding of salvation? Well, the thing that we always have to do when we see the word saved or salvation, as you know by now, is we have to ask, saved from what? So when we ask in this verse, salvation from what? It sends us searching through the rest of the book of Philippians. And in fact, there's a couple of places where the word saved or salvation is used. Let me just give you the background of what's going on here. Paul is writing this letter while he is in chains. That's his words. He says he's in chains, but that he hopes soon to be freed, delivered, or the word in Greek can be translated as saved. At this point, he believes that he's going to be able to stand trial in Rome and be able to get free. Now, think about it for a second. Standing in front of a very powerful Roman official might induce some fear and trembling. It might be scary to stand trial, but he believes that he's going to be able to do it and be successful in getting free from his chains. So, that has a connection to what's going on in Philippi. Philippi was dealing with a rash of false teachers. Paul was really harsh on these false teachers. In fact, in the same book, he calls them dogs and mutilators of the flesh. And so the Philippian church had to deal. They had to fight off these false teachers. Now imagine that you had to fight a dog, or you have to fight off someone who's a flesh mutilator. You can imagine that that would induce some fear and trembling. So what Paul seems to be doing here is he's comparing his own trial in chains with the trial that the Philippians are going through. They're about to have to fight off these dogs and mutilators of the flesh, these false teachers, and he knows it's going to be scary and it's going to be difficult. And what's more, Paul would love to be there with them to help them in the fight, but he can't because he's in chains. That's why he mentions being absent. But he says, here's how you do it. You obey what I've told you to do. And therefore, by obeying Paul, they will be obeying Christ. So by their obedience, by their hard work, by their ability to stand with courage against these false teachers, they will be able to work out their salvation. So salvation from what? Not from hell, salvation from false teachers. Salvation from the trouble that comes by these dogs and these mutilators of the flesh. So they will be delivered if they do what Paul says. So what it all comes down to is understanding what the Bible means by salvation. As I've said in a previous episode, about 70% of the time when the word salvation or saved is used, it's not actually talking about being saved from hell. About 30% of the time it is. This is one of those instances where people can be saved from something other than hell by hard work. There's a few other verses in the New Testament that talk about being saved from something other than hell by works. If you want to go deeper and learn about those verses as well, I'd encourage you to get my book, Salvation and Discipleship. It goes much more in depth. I'd also encourage you to go to simplybelief.com/grow. It's sort of the hub, the home of this study and others. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next episode.